There was blood on the microwave when I walked back in. Not a lot. Just one of those tiny, smeared dots, like when you nick your finger and wipe it fast. But it made my throat close up, because it wasn't there when I left. And no one had texted me. No. Hey, Briley burned her hand. Or Dale cut himself making toast. Just silence. And then screaming. I swear to God, I thought someone was dying. I dropped the grocery bags right there on the floor, milk exploded, great, and ran into the hallway. The kids were in the laundry room, crying. Both of them. Both my kids. Crying, snot-nosed, terrified, but not hurt. What's wrong? I shouted, looking them over, turning their arms like I was a paramedic. They didn't answer me, just pointed toward the basement door. And that's when I heard it. My wife's voice. Screaming. Not the kind of scream you hear in a horror movie, not the high-pitched victim kind. This was guttural. Animal. And then it turned into words. How could you do this to me? I don't know what possessed me, but I opened the basement door like a zombie. I walked down the steps one at a time, heart pounding so loud it echoed in my eardrums. She didn't even hear me coming. She was on the phone, back turned, her whole body shaking. I took care of everything. I destroyed the test. You promised me he'd never find out. I stopped. I didn't breathe. She went silent for a second, then said something I wish I could scrub from my skull forever. They're not even his. I gave him 12 years of peace, and now Travis wants to grow a conscience. I blinked. I turned around. I went back up the stairs, slow. One hand on the rail, one in a fist. The kids were still there. I told them to go to their rooms. I walked outside, got in the car, and sat there with my hands on the wheel, staring at the gravel in the driveway. The house we built. The little red tricycle leaning against the porch. The chalk drawings Briley had done the day before. Hearts and smiley faces, and the word Dad in huge, shaky letters. I should have left. I should have driven somewhere. Anywhere. Instead, I put my head on the steering wheel and started to cry. And I mean ugly cry. I didn't even know what I was crying for yet. I hadn't processed it. I didn't know who Travis was. I didn't know what test she was talking about. But my body knew. It knew before my brain could catch up. My name's Corbin. I've been a father for 12 years. Except maybe I haven't. Because someone else just screamed the truth into the basement. And now I have to find out if I've been living a lie from the very first diaper change. I didn't go back inside until midnight. I don't even know why I stayed in the car for hours. Maybe I thought if I gave her time, she'd confess. Maybe I was hoping she'd come outside and say something. Anything. That would make sense. But she didn't. She turned off the lights in the living room. She locked the front door. She went to bed. Like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, I sat there in the driveway with half a dozen conversations playing in my head. Conversations I never had. The ones I should have had. Should have demanded. Should have noticed. But I never did. Because I trusted her more than I trusted my own instincts. Because when you marry someone, you're not supposed to question everything they do when they walk out of the room. That's not love. That's prison. And now I was wondering if I'd been locked up in my own marriage without realizing it. I finally went inside when the cold made my teeth chatter. I moved quietly through the kitchen, avoiding the broken egg carton from earlier, stepping over the spilled cereal box that nobody bothered to clean. I peeked into the kids' rooms. Briley had her stuffed raccoon tucked under her chin, snoring. Dale had kicked off his blanket again. I covered him up. Same way I always do. I almost didn't go into the bedroom. Almost. But curiosity is a mean, mean thing. It crawls under your skin and whispers awful suggestions. So I went in. Marin was asleep. Or pretending to be. Her back was turned, and the light from her phone screen was faint under the covers. I didn't say a word. I just walked to the closet. Not to look for anything in particular, just to look. The top shelf was full of folded towels. On the left was a box labeled birth stuff that I hadn't seen in years. I pulled it down, sat on the floor, and opened it. Inside, old hospital wristbands, ultrasound photos, 2 tiny hats from the delivery room, a laminated footprint from Briley's first birthday, and an envelope, plain white, thick, sealed, but only halfway. I wish I could lie and say I hesitated, but I didn't. I tore it open like a man who already knew he was about to ruin his own life. Inside was a report, not handwritten, professionally printed, from a DNA lab. My name wasn't anywhere on it. But the father's name was Travis Conley. Briley and Dale's names were both there too. I didn't even have to read the rest. I folded the paper neatly, put it back in the envelope, and shoved it into my hoodie pocket like I was stealing a confession from my own house. Marin stirred in bed. "Corbin," she mumbled. I didn't answer. I walked out, closed the door behind me, went back to the living room and sat on the couch in the dark, staring at nothing. Everything I ever believed about my life felt like it had just been written by someone else. Like I'd been an extra in a movie about a man who thought he had a family. And the weirdest part? I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was humiliated. How many people knew? Did Travis? Did he get updates on their birthdays? Did he come to their soccer games and pretend to be just a friend? Was I some pathetic prop she kept around to pay bills and fix leaky faucets? At some point, I opened Facebook and searched for Travis Conley. Only one guy popped up from our area. His profile photo was a dirt bike. His cover photo? A hospital room. Him holding 2 newborns. One of them had Briley's birthmark. I stared at it for 15 minutes before I realized my hand was shaking so badly I dropped the phone. That's when the anger hit, like a freight train. And the worst part? I didn't know who I was angry at more, Marin for lying or myself for believing. By morning, my hands weren't just shaking, they were numb. I must have dozed off on the couch at some point, because I woke up still wearing the hoodie with the envelope in the pocket. It felt heavier than it should, like it had weight beyond paper, like it might catch fire if I looked at it again. I made coffee like a ghost. Marin came downstairs 20 minutes later, barefoot, yawning, wrapped in that faded green robe she's had since college. She acted like nothing had happened, like she hadn't screamed about a paternity test into the phone or buried DNA results at the back of our closet. She even kissed my cheek. I flinched. "Everything okay?" she asked. Too lightly, too carefully. I stared at her over my coffee mug. I know. Her expression didn't change. Not right away. She blinked, tilted her head, smiled, tight and controlled. "Know what?" I pulled the envelope out of my hoodie and placed it on the counter like I was disarming a bomb. "That I'm not their father," I said. "And that Travis Conley is." Silence. I expected her to deny it. To cry. To scream, maybe. To say it wasn't what it looked like or that I misunderstood. But she just looked at the envelope, then back at me, and said the most insane thing I've ever heard. "You weren't supposed to find that." That's it. No shock. No remorse. Just a weird sort of annoyance, like I'd peeked at my Christmas gift early. I waited for her to explain, to beg, to break down. But she just sighed and poured herself coffee. Like this was just another Thursday morning. Then she said it. She said the line that almost made me throw the mug across the room. "I think you owe me an apology for going through my things." An apology? I actually laughed. Not a real laugh. One of those hollow, half-choked sounds that feels like it scrapes your throat on the way out. She kept going. "You were never supposed to find out. It would have ruined everything. I had it handled. Travis signed away parental rights. The paperwork is airtight. You have nothing to worry about." I was speechless. Literally. My mouth opened, but no words came out. She sat down across from me and folded her hands like we were discussing refinancing the house. "You are their father. Not biologically, no, but in every way that matters. That's what I've always said. You're the one who raised them. You're the one who loves them. That's what counts, right? Then why didn't you tell me?" I finally croaked. She looked me dead in the eye. "Because you would have left." That landed hard. Because she was right. I don't know what I would have done 10 years ago if she told me she cheated twice and that neither of the kids were mine. I'd like to think I would have stayed for the kids. But I don't know. I was younger then. Angrier. More fragile. "So you decided for me?" I said. She nodded. "Yes, I did." It was like listening to a psychopath narrate a documentary about your own life. I didn't yell. I didn't flip the table or call her names. But inside, something broke. Something important. Then she tried to hug me. I backed away so fast I hit the counter with my hip. "I'm not the villain here," she said, her voice rising now. "I kept this family together. I carried the guilt every day. You think it was easy for me? You think I don't regret what I did?" "You regret me finding out," I said. "Not what you did." And that's when she lost it. Her hands slammed the table. "You would have abandoned them. You would have destroyed them just to punish me." I stood there, frozen. Because deep down, I didn't know if she was wrong. If I left, would it hurt them more than it hurt me? They were innocent, blameless. But now I didn't know what I was to them, or who I was to myself. "You're a good man, Corbin," she said. "Quieter now. Don't let this change that." But it already had. It changed everything. Because I wasn't even sure I was a man anymore. I felt like a placeholder. A stunt double for the real dad. And worst of all, I still kissed them goodnight the next evening. I still told them I loved them, even as I wondered if I was the only one in the house living inside a lie. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my brother. Not my coworker Drew, who I used to vent to during lunch breaks. Not even my therapist, who I'd stopped seeing because things were fine. I kept it bottled, like some ancient relic buried under 6 tons of shame. On the surface, nothing changed. I still got up at 6:45 to pack Dale's lunch. Still braided Briley's hair in crooked little rows she pretended not to hate. Still checked homework. Still set the alarm every night before bed. But everything felt fake. Like I was acting in a play I never auditioned for. I watched them differently. Every word, every gesture, every bedtime giggle. I watched it with the knowledge that I was not their biological father. And it tainted everything. Like a thumbprint on glass I could never quite wipe clean. The worst part was how normal Marin acted. After that kitchen confrontation, she slid back into her usual rhythm. Cleaning, grocery lists, emails to teachers, PTA meetings. Her version of penance was pretending nothing happened. She thought if we just moved forward, the past would die quietly in its corner. But secrets don't die. They spread. And it started the following Thursday. I was at the auto shop getting the brakes checked on our Outback when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. No name. Local area code. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me said pick it up. Hello. Silence. Then a voice. Male. Shaky. Youngish. Is this Corbin Adler? Who's asking? Another pause. My name is Jackson. I'm Travis's brother. It hit me like a kick to the stomach. I stepped outside the waiting room and into the alley behind the shop. Why are you calling me? I asked. He sighed. I probably shouldn't be. But I found out what my brother did. I saw the paperwork. The test. And I can't keep quiet anymore. I didn't say anything. He kept going. He's not proud of it, okay? But he never wanted to raise kids. He freaked out when Marin told him. She begged him not to say anything. She said she'd handle it. That you were safe. That you'd never know. I leaned against the brick wall, feeling like I was sinking through the earth. You're not the first guy she lied to, Jackson added. That snapped me to attention. What? She did this before. When she was younger. My brother's not the first guy she got tangled up with. There was another guy before you. They were engaged for like a month, but she ghosted him after he caught her cheating. I don't know, man. She spins stories. Always has. I swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm a dad now too, he said. And if someone was keeping my kid from me, lying to my face for a decade, I'd want someone to tell me. I figured you deserved at least that. I thanked him. It felt awkward, but I did. Then I hung up and just stood there, the cold seeping through my coat, watching a loose cigarette but roll across the concrete like it had somewhere better to be. So it wasn't just one mistake. Not a single moment of weakness. This was her pattern. Marin had done this before. Lied. Manipulated. Rewritten someone's life. I wasn't special. I was just next. When I got home, I told her about the call. She didn't flinch. Her face was a perfect mask. Of course Jackson called you. He's always had a thing for drama. He just wants to feel important. That's not what this is, I said. He told me about the guy before me. The engagement. The cheating. For the first time in days, her expression cracked. Just a flicker, but I saw it. You're digging, she said, voice low. You think if you keep peeling back layers, you'll find a version of this that makes sense. But you won't. I was young. I was stupid. I was terrified. But I chose you, Corbin. I stayed. I made a family with you. You made a family on a lie? I shot back. And you would have walked away the second you found out, she whispered. I turned to leave the room, but then she called after me. Are you going to tell them? Briley and Dale? Are you really going to rip their world apart because you can't handle a truth that doesn't fit your fantasy? And there it was. The trap. Because I knew that if I told them, it wouldn't just hurt Marin. It would obliterate the 2 kids I still kissed goodnight. So I said nothing. I went upstairs. And for the 3rd night in a row, I cried in the shower so they wouldn't hear me. There's a sound parents never forget. The front door slamming open at full speed, followed by a voice that doesn't quite sound like your child's. Like it was mangled on the way up their throat. That's the sound I heard that Friday afternoon. I had just pulled the chicken out of the oven. I don't even know why I was cooking. Habit, maybe. Trying to play house, while the foundation crumbled beneath me. Then it happened. The door slammed. Backpacks hit the floor. And Briley was screaming. Not crying. Not pouting. Screaming. Why didn't you tell me? I froze. The heat from the oven turned to ice. My heart hit the floor before my brain could catch up. She was standing in the hallway, fists balled, face red, tear-streaked and trembling. Dale was behind her, confused and scared. I dropped the dish towel and came toward them slowly, like approaching a wild animal. Briley, what's going on? What happened? She was shaking so badly I thought she'd collapse. Caden said you're not my real dad. That everyone knows. That his mom told him at church. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. All the blood rushed to my face, then drained out my feet. Church. Marin's friend Becca went to that church. Loudmouth, judgmental, passive-aggressive Becca, who once told me I looked tired in front of an entire PTA meeting. I clenched my jaw. What else did he say? Briley looked at me like I was a stranger. He said you were just the guy who got tricked into raising us. That mom cheated. That you're not really anything. That last part, not really anything, felt like a knife slid between my ribs. I knelt down and took her hands. Look at me, Bri. Look at me. She did. Barely. I'm your dad. In every way that matters. I've been there since the first diaper, the first scraped knee, the first stupid princess birthday party you made me wear a crown to. Nothing that kid said changes that. Okay. She didn't answer, just pulled her hands away and ran upstairs. I didn't stop her, because the truth was, I didn't know if she believed me, or if I even believed myself anymore. Dale stood there for a few seconds, holding his lunchbox like it was a bomb. Then he whispered, "Is it true?" I didn't know what to say. Not yet. So I lied. No, that kid's just trying to be mean. And just like that, I became the very thing I hated. A liar. That night, I confronted Marin. I didn't knock. I didn't ease into it. I stormed into the bedroom where she was folding laundry like we weren't living in a war zone. Who did you tell? She didn't look surprised. Not even a little. Nobody. Bullsh*T, I snapped. Some kid at church told Briley. His mom knew. That means someone's been running their mouth. Marin stayed maddeningly calm. I didn't tell anyone. But maybe someone overheard me and Becca talking. I've been venting. Venting, I shouted. You're turning our lives into coffee shop gossip. I needed someone to talk to, she yelled back. You shut me out. You sleep on the couch. You barely make eye contact. And you look at the kids like they're strangers. What was I supposed to do? Implode? You were supposed to protect them. That broke her. She sat down on the bed and put her face in her hands. I didn't mean for it to get out, she whispered. I swear. But it had. And the damage was done. Over the next few days, I saw it everywhere. In Briley's cautious stares. In Dale's sudden silence. They were watching me now, not with love, but with curiosity. Like they were trying to figure out who I really was. If I was real. If anything was. Then came the school meeting. Principal Rayburn called it a private matter. Said there had been some whispers among the students. That certain rumors were circulating. She asked if we wanted to schedule a counselor. I said no. Marin said yes. We didn't speak on the way home. And that night I did something I never thought I'd do. I Googled family law attorneys. I stared at the screen, cursor blinking next to search terms like non-biological father rights and paternity fraud custody. And I felt sick. Because suddenly, this wasn't about hurt feelings or broken trust. This was about survival. And I didn't know whose side I was even on anymore. I don't know what I expected when I stepped into that lawyer's office. Justice? Clarity? A roadmap for how to climb out of this nightmare with my dignity intact? What I got instead was a thin man with sharp eyes and a soft voice named Elliot Monroe, who looked like the kind of guy who ironed his shoelaces and enjoyed spreadsheets too much. He offered me coffee. I declined. We sat in a room that smelled like carpet cleaner and quiet panic. I laid it all out. The kids. The DNA test. The hidden envelope. The confrontation. The fact that my name was on both birth certificates even though genetically I had no ties. I tried to keep my voice steady, but somewhere between describing the hospital photos and the moment my daughter asked if I was her real dad, I broke. Just for a second. Long enough that Monroe slid a box of tissues across the table without a word. When I finished, he tapped his pen a few times, then asked the question I'd been dreading since I walked in. What do you want? It was such a simple question, but it hollowed me out. Because I didn't know. Did I want revenge? Custody? The truth? An apology? Did I want to erase the last 12 years of my life just because they'd been built on a foundation of lies? Or did I want to cling to them like a shipwreck survivor clings to a piece of driftwood? He must have seen the conflict on my face because he leaned back and softened his tone. Corbin, you're in a very gray space. Emotionally and legally. Paternity fraud isn't criminal in this state. Technically, you were married. You raised them. You claimed them. And unless you can prove intent to deceive in writing, the court's going to treat you as the legal father. I stared at him. Even if I'm not their biological parent. Biology matters less than history. You've acted as their father since birth. That counts. And if you pursue separation or divorce, child support will likely still be expected. The court prioritizes stability, not DNA. The words hit like bricks. So I pay for children that aren't mine forever? In the eyes of the law, they are yours, he said carefully. Unless you disestablish paternity, which is a process, and messy, and, frankly, devastating for the children. I sank into the chair, nauseous. And if I try to walk away? He closed the file. Then you risk losing all parental rights. No contact. No holidays. No input. You'll become a stranger, legally and practically. It felt like a trap with no exits. Stay and keep bleeding, or leave and get erased. Then he added something else. Forgive me, but this isn't just about them, is it? It's about her. The betrayal. The manipulation. I nodded. And your kids? Do they still want you around? They don't look at me the same anymore. But do they need you? The word hung in the air. I didn't answer, because I was afraid that yes, they did. But maybe they deserved someone better than me. Someone who didn't see their faces and hear Travis's name echoing in the back of his skull. On the drive home, I couldn't stop replaying what Monroe said. About the law, about history, about the consequences of both staying and leaving. And then something strange happened. I found myself parked outside a rundown corner bar I hadn't been to in years. I wasn't even sure how I got there. But I went inside, sat down, ordered a drink. And 10 minutes later, a man sat next to me and ruined what was left of my evening. Corbin Adler? I turned. He held out a hand. I'm Travis. At first I didn't move, just stared. His face was older than the photos. He looked tired. His clothes were clean but cheap. His eyes were cautious. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said quickly. I heard from Jackson that you found out. I wanted to say something. One time. That's all. I stood up. But he didn't. He just looked at me like someone who had lived with guilt for a very long time. I told her I didn't want kids, that I wasn't ready. She said it was handled. And then years later, I found out they existed, that they were mine. She begged me not to come forward, said you were better for them, that I'd ruin everything. I clenched my fists. You did ruin everything. He nodded. I know. I should knock your teeth in. You probably should. We sat in silence for a while. Just two men connected by the same betrayal, both poisoned by the same lie. Then he pulled something out of his wallet and slid it across the bar. A photo. Briley and Dale. From a school play. Costumes. Smiles. I printed it the day I found out, he said. I've never met them. Never even been near your house. But I keep this. Because even if I wasn't allowed in, they're still mine. And I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I didn't take the photo. But I didn't walk away either. And that scared me more than anything. Because part of me didn't know whose side I was on anymore. 3 days passed after the bar. 3 long, crawling, suffocating days. I didn't tell Marin about the meeting with Travis. I didn't mention the photo. I didn't mention the apology. Honestly, I didn't know what to do with any of it. My whole existence had become one long pause button. I was just hovering. Not fighting. Not healing. Just floating in a tank of cold water while everyone else moved on like I hadn't just discovered I was living someone else's life. The kids were quieter now. They walked on eggshells, and I let them. I didn't know how to be soft around them anymore. Every time I looked at Briley, I saw the red in her face when she screamed at me. Every time Dale sat beside me on the couch, I waited for him to flinch. I had become a ghost in my own house. Then Marin asked to meet outside the house. At the park. I thought it was a trap. I half expected her to show up with a lawyer or some kind of staged apology. But instead, she came alone. No makeup, hair pulled back, dressed in that oversized gray hoodie she always stole from me when she was cold. She sat on the bench and patted the spot beside her. I didn't sit. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice brittle. Didn't come for you. She nodded like she expected that. I just wanted to talk. Without walls. Without yelling. Without the kids hearing. I crossed my arms. So talk. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. I know I messed up. I know that doesn't even come close to covering it. But I need you to understand something. I never meant to hurt you like this. I just didn't know how to live with what I did. And when I saw how much you loved them, how naturally you stepped into it, I panicked. I thought if I told you, I'd lose everything. I'd lose you. You still might, I said. She took a shaky breath. I want to fix this. I don't know how yet, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I laughed under my breath. There's no fixing this, Maren. There's surviving it. That's it. Then she said something that made my stomach knot. I'll sign over full custody. I froze. What? You can have them. Full custody. I'll keep visitation. Holidays, summers, whatever you decide. But you'll be the primary parent. You'll make the decisions. You'll be protected. You won't have to pay support or worry about getting blindsided in court. I'll sign whatever it takes. I stared at her like she had grown two heads. Why would you do that? She swallowed hard. Because I know you're still their father. And I know I might not deserve to be their mother. The words landed like wet cement. Heavy. Final. Too calm to be manipulation. I'm tired, she said. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending. And if stepping back gives them the best chance at a stable life, I'll do it. It didn't make sense. It didn't feel like her. You've never given up control of anything in your life, I said. Why start now? She looked up at me, eyes glassy. Because they love you more than they trust me right now. And I know why. And I deserve it. That was the part that scared me most. She meant it. I sat down slowly, not looking at her. My hands were shaking. I don't know why. Maybe because I thought I wanted revenge, but now, with the offer in front of me, it didn't taste like victory. What do you want in return? I asked. Nothing, she said. And for once, I believed her. The next day, we met with a mediator. She laid it all out in writing. No tricks. No games. No hidden clauses. She gave me everything. I walked out of that office with a folder full of signatures and a throat full of questions I'd never get answers to. That night, I told Briley and Dale. We sat on the couch, me, stiff and rehearsed, them, wide-eyed and quiet. I want you to know something, I said. Even though things are changing, and even though some stuff came out that was really hard to hear, I'm still your dad. I always will be. And I'll be here. Every day, every night, no matter what. Briley cried first. Dale just asked one thing. Do you still love Mom? And I told him the truth. I don't know. That night, they both crawled into bed with me. No words. Just warmth. Like maybe, somehow, they forgave me for not being perfect. Like maybe, somehow, they still believed I was theirs. I didn't expect the letter. Not after everything. Not after lawyers and court signatures and whispered goodbyes on doorsteps. But 2 weeks after Maren moved out, it arrived in a plain white envelope with my name on it. No return address. No fancy stationery. Just my name. Corbin. I almost didn't open it. I thought it might be another lawyer's letter, or worse, some parting shot I wasn't ready for. But something in me said read it. So I waited until the kids were asleep, then sat in the kitchen and opened it with shaking hands. It was handwritten. Every word. Corbin, I know I've said sorry 100 ways, and maybe none of them matter anymore. Maybe they all just sound like smoke. But this isn't a letter about apology. It's a letter about truth. You were never supposed to be temporary. You were never the backup plan. You were the best part of my life. I never planned for things to go the way they did. I was young and scared and selfish. But you turned something messy into something beautiful. You made a family out of chaos. You gave our kids a version of love I could never have faked. And I see now that they are better because of you. They are smart and kind and stable because you were there. If they ever question it, if they ever doubt it, you show them this letter. Show them that their mother knew exactly who raised them right, who held their hands and taught them what strength looks like. You are their real dad. And even if I lost you, I will never stop being grateful for what you gave them. Maren. I read it 3 times. Then I cried again. Not from grief. Not from rage. From something else I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Something let go inside me that night. Some twisted knot I'd been carrying in my chest like a badge. It didn't erase the pain or rewrite the past, but it reminded me why I'd stayed when I could have walked. The next morning, I made pancakes. I burned the first batch. I always do. Briley wandered in wearing her socks on the wrong feet, yawning. Dale followed with his blanket still wrapped around his head like a cape. And I didn't see DNA tests. I didn't see betrayal. I saw my kids. My daughter. My son. my family. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like an actor in someone else's life. I felt like me again, a little bruised, a little bent, but standing. 1 week later, Briley handed me a drawing she made in art class. It was a picture of our house, stick figures, crayon sky, everyone smiling. On the top, written in her wobbly handwriting, "My dad is my hero." No asterisk, no footnote, just truth. And for once, I believed it.